Nowhere near the best thumbnail, but today, Owens v. Echard, we're going to go over on what the experts say. And let me know what you think once we hear what both parties say. Let me know in the comments. I am the loud little ducky, and welcome. Let's jump in. David Greengrass continues to write, Maricopa County Superior Court, State of Arizona, in the matter of Owens v. Echard, petitioner's expert disclosure statement assigned to the Honorable Judge Matta. Pursuant to Arizona Family Law Practice 49J, petitioner Laura Owens discloses the following information regarding expert witnesses. Dr. Michael T. Medchill, MD, from Florida. A. Dr. Medchill is recently retired OBGYN who has provided expert report on subjects of obstetrics and gynecology as applied to his review of certain medical records in this matter. Dr. Medchill is being compensated at the rate of $500 an hour for his services, including records review and trial testimony if needed. To date, Dr. Medchill has been paid a total of $2,500. B. Dr. Medchill's curriculum vitae reflect his qualifications and publications is attached here to as Exhibit A. C. The substance and facts of Dr. Medchill's opinions are contained in written report attached here to as Exhibit B. D. The material reviewed by Dr. Medchill informing the grounds for his opinion are attached hereto as Exhibit C. E. The reference materials cited in Dr. Medchill's report are attached hereto as Exhibit D, dated April 22nd, 2024. Copy sent to Greg Woodnick and Isabel, and it is signed by Gingras. 1. Did Owen shave? Did Owens have? Space needs to be there. Good reason to believe she was pregnant on August 1st, 2023. No, she did not. If, according to y'all, she miscarried 2 fetal sacs, which she didn't, in my opinion, in July. So no. Intimacy of some type occurred on 5/20/2023. A faint positive urine HCG was noted on 5/31/23. Home pregnancy tests are usually positive by 14 days after conception, depending on the quality of test, a little sooner. The fact that the test was faintly positive at 11 days shows good correlation. With a twin pregnancy, HCG levels may rise a little bit faster and be detectable by a urine pregnancy test, UPT, a little sooner. These tests are approximately 99% accurate. They are 99% accurate in that there is HCG in your system, not that you're pregnant. Most people who do pop positive for HCG are pregnant, but not everybody. And then there's an article quoted, "How early can you detect pregnancy? clevelandclinic.org. She had a positive urine HCG at Banner Clinic on June 1st, 2023. Therefore, she had medically performed a test which collaborated with her home pregnancy test." No, that was still a urine test, whether it was a home one or one from the doctor. P-test is a P-test is a P-test. I don't care how many sticks of P you have. They all equal the same thing. On July 23rd, 2023, she passed 2 small fleshy objects vaginally. Oh, now they're fleshy objects, not fetal sacs. Okay. This may have been just some blood and cervical mucus. It may have been 1 fetus passing. No, it wasn't. It may have been 2 fetuses passing. Most definitely not. Pathology testing was not done on that material, so the precise answer is not possible. Well, copying and pasting things on an image that Dave Neal might have figured out yesterday might be the answer for what these are. False and fraudulent documentation, arts and crafts, once again by Owens. Go check out Dave's video if you haven't about that from yesterday. Having passed the material, Owens logically would want to know if she was still pregnant. She did 2 more pregnancy tests on 7/25/23 and 8/1/23. Both were positive. A reasonable person, without more sophisticated testing, ultrasound, would reasonably think that not only was she proven to be pregnant on May 31st and June 1st, but that she was still pregnant on 8/1/2023. No, a reasonable person would have gone to the doctor. That's what a reasonable person would have done. The fact that her quantitative HCG was still 102 positive on October 16, 2023, documents that a pregnancy did exist on 5 different occasions. Excuse me, what? No. No, that does not. Especially because they said that 102, that number, was not conclusive for a viable pregnancy. So no, on 10/16, when she got her little HCG number test back, they told her it was not a viable pregnancy. So already you're lying. Quantitative HCG indicates not only if one is pregnant, but how pregnant. A level of 102 this far into the pregnancy would indicate that there was a pregnancy at some point in time, but it was no longer viable or living. In fact, it would indicate that it had been non-viable for some time. No, because you can have an HCG level of 102 and never have been pregnant as well. Early pregnancy loss is defined as a non-viable intrauterine pregnancy with either an empty gestational sac or a gestational sac containing an embryo or fetus without fetal cardiac activity within the first 13 weeks of gestation. With expectant management, 80% of early pregnancy loss will achieve complete expulsion within 8 weeks. See Early Pregnancy Loss, ACOG, number 200, November 2018. So with early pregnancy losses, HCG levels do not return to negative for weeks and weeks. In fact, 20% don't resolve within 8 weeks. Depending on how early the pregnancy loss occurred, will determine if there is a significant bleeding or not. In some early loss, the fetuses and placenta get reabsorbed by the body with little or no bleeding at all. Small pieces of retained placenta attached to the uterine wall will continue to produce small amounts of HCG until the tissue is expelled, bleeding, or reabsorbed, which is exactly why you need to go to the doctor to make sure that it has all been absorbed or it is all expelled from the body. And I'm sorry, a person in her financial situation who wants so badly to be pregnant with somebody's child so that she can attach herself to somebody for life would not take the risk and not seek care during her pregnancy. I'm sorry, I do not buy it. The continued HCG levels would result in the patient feeling pregnant. Additionally, Owens is known to have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, which may resolve in ovarian cysts, weight gain, breast tenderness, and commonly bloating. However, PCOS does not cause false pregnancy tests. See PCOS and bloating, PCOS Awareness Association at PCOSAA.org. No, PCOS does not cause false pregnancy tests. but possibly her medication that she takes for her epilepsy does. But I see they're not mentioning any of that. On November 14th, 2023, Miss Owens' HCG was negative. Clearly, Owens was pregnant, consistent with a conception date of 5/20/2023. She no longer had a viable pregnancy at some point. When the pregnancy became non-viable is impossible to determine, but we know it happened before October 16, 2023. On that date, she had an HCG of only 102, when she would have been 21 weeks from conception. We don't go from conception, we go from last missed period. That's how that's all figured out. She was informed that this meant she was probably had a non-viable pregnancy. Owens' quantitative HCG of 102 on 10/16/23, along with her multiple non-quantitative urine tests, would indicate to any reasonable person that she was pregnant. Again, no, it wouldn't, because she was told it was not a viable pregnancy. So she would have been told she is no longer pregnant as of 10/16. Coupled with the negative HCG test on 11/14 indicates that she was initially pregnant, followed by a typical pattern for an early spontaneous abortion, miscarriage, and once all the HCG producing tissue had been reabsorbed, the HCG returned to negative. No, I don't think that's how any of that happened. Is the HCG verifiable medical evidence of pregnancy? In general, yes, with a certainty of greater than 99%. In rare situations, HCG may be elevated in patients with germ cell tumors. Clearly, we are not dealing with that here. Are we sure? Has she had a scan? In other rare cases, HCG can be elevated following a pregnancy that is subsequent tumor. Again, we are not dealing with that in this situation. Approximately 1% false positive rate. The cause of these included user errors, incorrect use of test evaporation lines, and use of an expired test. The likelihood of a false positive test on 5 separate occasions makes this possibility incredibly unlikely. Some medications have been implicated in giving false positive HCG tests. Ding, 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 ding. That's how she gets these. She was on the same type of medications when her 5 HCG tests were positive and when the HCG was negative. Was she taking them the way she should have been, though? Or was she taking them more when she needed to have them? Or did she doctor the evidence? We can't believe anything. Additionally, her HCG pattern followed a typical HCG pattern in which there was early fetal loss, followed by weeks and weeks of time passing before complete expulsion or reabsorption, which was documented on 11/14 with a negative test. No, none of this complete expulsion or reabsorption was documented because she never had an ultrasound to say that that is what had happened. You can assume that stuff is out of there and she doesn't have the HCG, but nothing has been documented showing that she expulsed or reabsorbed this pregnancy. Where is that report? Because I've not seen it. Just saying there's a negative test does not tell me that she has completely gotten rid of everything that was supposedly in her. 4. How reliable and accurate are home urine pregnancy tests? Approximately 99%. Okay, you already told us that. 5. Would it be reasonable for Owens to assume she was pregnant based on the type of sexual contact she had and the lab test she received? Yes, there was not a description of foreplay, and there was disputed testimony about afterplay. It is well known that men are like basketball players. They dribble before they shoot, which is why the withdrawal method has a much higher failure rate than most other methods of birth control. They also dribble after they shoot, so if he did put his P in her B after orgasm, she could still get pregnant. The odds of getting pregnant obviously go down if the semen is released just outside of the V, but it's still possible. In fact, I had one patient who was clearly pregnant. Ultrasound confirmed. She absolutely denied intercourse, denied even ever using tampons, and stated that she was a virgin. I have heard the story many times. In this case, however, I was shocked at the time of her exam to see that her hymen was intact. That alone would be remarkable enough to remember her, but her name was Maria and her due date was within a day or two of Christmas. Again, that's what they could be saying. You know, you shouldn't lie to your doctors because a lot of times they can figure it out if you are. But as I was saying in the previous video, is it possible that this Maria girl could have had it just sitting in there, but there was no activity with it? Sorry, this is a lot of TMI, but and that's how that happened. And because there wasn't action going on and it was just sitting inside, could that have caused her to get pregnant? That's a hypothetical. 6. Is there any information in the records which are inconsistent with Owens being pregnant? No, she was clearly pregnant with 99+% certainty based on 5 HCGs, both urine and blood. What we are not able to determine from the data is the exact time at which her pregnancy became non-viable. The timing of the SAB/miscarriage data are consistent that Owens did indeed get pregnant on 5/20/2023. Sometimes the SAB is completed with heavy bleeding and passage of tissue. In these cases, the timing of the SAB is relatively precise. In other cases, the SAB is incomplete. The fetus dies or stops developing, but there may or may not be bleeding for weeks. A complete SAB/miscarriage is when everything is expelled or reabsorbed. When this happens, the HCG will return to negative. But we don't know that that's why her HCG returned to negative, because I don't see any definitive proof that she was. That bloody tissue could be blood clots from periods. It could be. And after seeing Dave Neal's video and seeing the white kind of shadow thing behind it, I don't even believe that picture. Now, it's very faint. One has to really look, but because Owens is not credible, we have to investigate every single photo down to the pixeled details, because she thinks she's so sly. In Owens' case, the miscarriage or completed miscarriage was not technically completed until November 14, 2023, when everything was reabsorbed and her HCG was negative. So even though Owens felt pregnant and the HCGs were positive, unbeknownst to her, the process had started many weeks earlier. The exact timing is unable to be determined by the data available. Abnormal pregnancies frequently have a slower growth rate than normal fetuses and frequently are small for gestational ages. before they expire. So for example, a 9-week fetus may only measure about the size of a 7 to 8 week sized fetus, which is about the size of a kidney bean. A 7-week sized fetus is just a little bigger than a half an inch. Fetuses this size may simply get reabsorbed by the body or expelled with little blood loss. It is possible that she passed one or both fetuses on July 23, 2023. Even if she did pass both, she felt pregnant because of the positive HCG, pregnancy hormone, and possible PCOS symptoms, which can cause weight gain, breast tenderness, and bloating. Okay, so her PCOS makes her gain weight, have breast tenderness, and bloat. And then she goes down to 91.9 pounds on her doctored scale picture. I did a short on the doctored scale picture. I will link it in the description box if you have not seen it, so you can check it out. This confirmed in her mind by her continuing positive pregnancy tests, weight gain, and protruding abdomen shown on pictures she took on 9/19/23 and 10/9/23. Did you know that those had been photoshopped, doctor? Because they were. See, this is why his opinion doesn't mean much, because the information he's been given is not the truth, and the whole truth, and the nothing but the truth. He's been given lies of her make-believe story in her head. Finally, it is illogical to think she would request the Ravgen test in August and have it performed in late September if she didn't think she was pregnant. Ravgen is a non-invasive prenatal test, NIPT, on maternal blood that detects fetal DNA, based on the fact that this was likely an early pregnancy loss before 12 weeks. The fetuses expired before the Ravgen test. Therefore, it's not a surprise that the test was inconclusive and showed little to no fetal DNA in late September. A little to no fetal DNA test in September is not an inconclusive test. That's an answer right there. There was little to no fetal DNA. 8. Ms. Owens is not required to file a death certificate in Arizona. A death certificate is required if the gestational age at the time of fetal death occurs after 20 weeks, estimated gestational age, or weighs more than 350 grams, about 3/4 pound. Clearly, the fetal death was before 20 weeks. As I have pointed out, the fetal deaths occurred before 12 weeks and likely several weeks earlier. So explain to me, if in September she was no longer pregnant, why in November did she have a pregnant belly that she could adjust in court? Even if in her mind she believed she was still pregnant, her belly would not have been growing for it to look that way. Has he seen that belly pic? Has he seen what she looked like in November? That growing bump that she supposedly had? I bet he didn't. Because that wouldn't bode well. This expert does not have all the information. It is not his fault that he doesn't have all the information. He can only go by what he is given. And I hope Woodnick points that out if he is cross-examined or something. It's just, I feel bad because this makes this expert look very bad but we have to remember he doesn't have all the facts. This is a letter from Gingras Law, April 16, 2024, Dr. Michael T. Medchill. For record review, expert report, Owens v. Echard, Maricopa County Superior Court case. Dr. Medchill, thank you for agreeing to review the enclosed information regarding my client Owens. As discussed, Owens has agreed to pay $500 an hour for your professional service in reviewing the enclosed records and answering some questions which will require you to offer an expert opinion in the area of obstetrics and gynecology. As we discussed, Laura is aware you have retired from active practice and that your Arizona medical license is no longer current. Per the Arizona Medical Board website, it appears your most recent license expired on March 7, 2022, just over 2 years ago. Your retirement does not preclude you from serving as an expert witness in the matter. If anything, your long career as an OBGYN means you have even more experience and expertise in the areas we need help understanding. This makes your input that much more valuable. As such, both Owens and I greatly appreciate you taking the time to help. You know what would have really helped as far as an OBGYN? Any of the ones that Owens claims she saw. But why can't she bring any of them in to testify for her? Because they don't exist, that's why. To make this process as easy as possible, the letter will summarize the facts of the case and will ask you to express opinions about a few things. While the underlying story of this case is complicated, the basic issues we need your help with is very simple. Owens claims she became pregnant on May 20th, 2023, and that her pregnancy later ended in a miscarriage. The would-be father disputes this. He claims she faked the whole thing and that she was never pregnant at all. The goal here is to try and help the court determine the truth. Did Owens knowingly lie about her pregnancy, or did she file this action in good faith, believing that she was pregnant? Due to the unusual posture of this case, i.e. Owens admits she is no longer pregnant, it probably does not matter whether Owens was ever actually pregnant. Instead, this court is being asked to impose monetary sanctions on Owens for filing the frivolous lawsuit. In that situation, the key issue is whether she had any good faith basis to think she was pregnant, even if that belief later turned out to be wrong. 1. The background. To recap the situation, Laura is currently involved in a pending paternity case in Maricopa County, which she filed as the petitioner. Attached is the affidavit from Owens that explains the basic facts and details of her story, which are lies. So right there, he's going off of that affidavit that we read a couple videos back where she made the ARPing claim. Does not cover every single aspect. For purpose of clarity, Laura's affidavit does not cover every single aspect of the dispute between her and the father. Don't even call him the father, because he's not the father. As a matter of necessity and brevity, we tried to only provide you with the key facts and details that bear on the questions we need your help understanding. Owens claims that May 20th, 2023, she had a brief one-night sexual relationship with the putative father, Clayton Echard. Owens claims she and Mr. Echard had sex briefly and that she tested positive for pregnancy 11 days later. Owens claims she tried to speak with Mr. Echard about the matter, but he was extremely hostile and dismissive. He encouraged her to terminate the pregnancy, and he denied that he could be the father because he claims he did not actually have intercourse with Owens. Owens explored the option of abortion, but ultimately decided not to terminate the pregnancy. So if she wasn't going to terminate the pregnancy, you don't think she would have made damn sure that she stayed pregnant to get what she wanted? You think she wouldn't have been going to the doctors and making sure that those babies were okay to bring them into this world? Because if you think that she decided to keep the babies and then just not give them prenatal care, you're out of your mind. Because why not go ahead and terminate the pregnancy if you weren't going to get care during your pregnancy? What is the point? After making that decision, she filed the paternity action against Mr. Echard on August 1st, 2023. That date is important because one of the key questions here is whether Laura had a good faith basis to think she was pregnant at the time. The action was first filed. As long as Owens had a good faith basis to think she was pregnant, she should not face sanctions, even if that belief was later on proven to be incorrect. Well, she should get sanctions for doctoring evidence. Under the law, people are generally allowed to bring cases without being 100% certain about the facts. A good faith mistake would typically not be sufficient grounds for a court to impose sanctions against a person in Owens' position. So while it would be helpful to know whether Owens was actually pregnant on August 1st, 2023, the court will also be looking at what she believed on that date, even if later events proved her belief was incorrect. Summary of father's position. I'm just going to say summary of Clayton's position. As indicated in Owens' affidavit, the putative father, not the father, Clayton Echard, claims it is impossible for him to be the father of Owens' child, assuming she was never pregnant. Mr. Echard claims this is impossible because he says he and Owens never had sexual intercourse. He also suggested Laura may have tried to trap him by transferring his semen from her mouth following oral sex to her V. Laura denies doing this. Well, we can't believe anything she says, so we don't know what she did. Whether sexual intercourse did or did not occur is a disputed fact which you do not need to resolve. For the purposes of this review, you may simply assume the question of sexual intercourse is disputed and will be resolved by the court at a later time. Also, it is probably worth noting Clayton's attorney has made various arguments in support of this request for sanctions. These arguments are probably not directly relevant to your task, but they may be helpful for context. If you are interested in seeing those arguments, I have included a copy of a pleading entitled Motions for Sanctions pursuant to Rule 26 filed by Mr. Echard in the case on January 3rd, 2024. This is before we found out and she admitted to doctoring the ultrasounds. In this motion, Mr. Echard's lawyer explains why he thinks Laura lied about being pregnant. The primary argument seems to be HCG tests are not verifiable medical evidence of pregnancy. The Rabgen test suggests little to no fetal DNA was found, implying no fetal DNA was ever present. Clayton claims Owens wore a fake moon bump prosthetic during a video court appearance. Laura flatly denies this, and she has provided photos showing her body during the dates in question, which are included. She showed her body. She did not. He needs to see the video. Dr. Medchill needs to see the video of Owens in court. Incidentally, the motion for sanctions is no longer pending. It was withdrawn for reasons that are not relevant to your task. 3. Questions for expert evaluation. As you may recall from other matters, the rules of procedure generally require expert testimony to include certain specific things, showing the expert is qualified to express an opinion on a given subject. In particular, Rule 49J of the Arizona Rules of Family Law Procedure requires the following. J. Disclosure of expert witness. Each party must disclose the name, address, and telephone number of any person the party expects to call as an expert witness at trial. The party also must disclose the subject matter on which the expert will testify, the substance of the facts and opinions on which the expert will testify, a summary of the grounds for each opinion, and the expert's qualifications, plus the name and address of any custodian of reports the expert prepared. With that rule in mind, here are the specific questions we would like you to address in short. Written report for the court. The report should also include a summary of qualifications as outlined in the paragraph above. All right, I'm going to give my expert female grandmother opinion on these questions, okay? Number 1, based on your review of Miss Owens' medical records in her affidavit explaining facts and details of her interaction with Mr. Echard in May of 2023, is there reasonable probability Owens was in fact pregnant at or around the time she filed the paternity action on August 1st, 2023? No, she wasn't. There was no probability to believe this. 2, keeping in mind that on August 1st, 2023, Owens did not know what her HCG levels would be 10 weeks later in mid-October 2023. Does the fact that Owens had a lab test on October 16, 2023, which showed HCG levels of 104, demonstrated that Owens was never pregnant? Her HCG levels should have told her that. And her HCG levels, where she found out that she was not pregnant with a viable pregnancy, that appointment happened prior to the moon bump. So please explain the moon bump. That needs to be a question here. 3, Mr. Echard has taken the position that an HCG test is not verifiable medical evidence of pregnancy. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? It is not verifiable medical evidence. It's a possibility. Can you use it along with other evidence to conclude you are pregnant? Yes. But it doesn't always mean this. How reliable and or accurate are the at-home pregnancy tests? If a woman takes a test and receives a positive result, does that provide a reasonable basis for the woman to believe that she might be pregnant? Yes, it would for normal people. But then the normal people would go to the doctor to get confirmation, like an ultrasound and some blood tests, not 10 weeks into it, by 6 weeks at the latest. In your opinion, if a woman engaged in sexual activity of sort described in Owens' affidavit, and she had positive home pregnancy test 11 days later, followed by a positive pregnancy test administered by a reputable healthcare facility such as Banner Health 12 days later, followed by another positive home pregnancy test a month after the sexual contact, followed by another pregnancy test 5 weeks after, would it be reasonable for a woman to conclude she was probably pregnant? I don't care how reputable Banner Health facility is. If she would have popped positive on their pregnancy test, because it's still just a pee-stick test. I don't think the hospital's pee tests are any more reliable than, I can't even think of what those are called. One that's like really good, first response or something like that. And why did Banner Health only do why did they only do a urine test? If she was there to find out if she was pregnant, why didn't they do more? Why didn't they do a blood test? Why didn't they do an ultrasound? Unless they don't have the probe that goes inside you, because she wouldn't be able to do an over the belly ultrasound at 12 days. But anyway. 6. Do the medical records attached to Owens' affidavit contain any indication that she was not pregnant in or around August 2023? In other words, is there any information or evidence in the records that is clearly inconsistent with Owens being pregnant during this time period? 7. Important note. Owens' belief has always been that she became pregnant on May 20th, 2023 during the encounter with Mr. Echard, and that she miscarried sometime after mid-October 2023. That belief was based on numerous positive pregnancy tests she took between May 31st and October 16th. If the miscarriage occurred after or around mid-October, this would be around 20 weeks gestation. At that stage, it is my understanding the fetus would be approximately 10 inches in length, and a stillbirth or a miscarriage would be obvious to the mother. She would clearly see an identifiable, I guess it says fetus, but that mid-October date, she was told it was not the numbers of a viable pregnancy. You cannot answer that for me. Please explain that. I need to know why she still thought she was pregnant after the HCG test where they told her it was not a viable pregnancy. And why they didn't instruct her on further things that she needs to do. Please explain that. But Owens has always maintained that she did not experience any obvious miscarriage signs after mid-October. Nor did she see a discharged fetus. This odd situation has caused Clayton's lawyer to question whether Owens was ever pregnant at all, simply because parts of the story do not make sense, such as the lack of an obvious well-developed fetus, the low HCG levels on the October 16th test, and the finding from Ravgen in the last September, early October, that little to no fetal DNA was present. This leads to a very important final question. Is it possible that Owens may have unknowingly miscarried on July 23, 2023, but continued to test positive for pregnancy several weeks afterwards? Again, her last positive pregnancy test was on October 16, 2023, which showed an HCG level of 104. Based on that, Owens previously believed her pregnancy may have continued all the way into October, but after viewing all the facts together, it appears her belief might have been mistaken. It seems entirely plausible that a miscarriage occurred on July 23rd, but Owens was unaware until months later. But yet she still claimed, and I think it was on the 24th or the 26th of October, that she claimed that she was still pregnant. I'm going to look that up while we continue on. One of the other reasons Echard lawyer asserts the entire pregnancy was fake because Owens claims she continued to show physical signs of pregnancy, including a heavily swollen abdomen in September and October of 2023. Echard's lawyer contends if Laura was still pregnant in that time period and had a miscarriage around 21 to 22 weeks, there must have been an obvious dead fetus, and Owens should have been required to file a death certificate. Thus, the question is whether it is possible Owens miscarried on July 23, 2023, did not realize it, and that her swollen abdomen was simply a result of post-miscarriage inflammation or something similar. October 24th was when the hearing was. And then again on November 2nd, where she claimed that she was in fact pregnant. She claimed on both of those dates, which is after the October 16th. Explain that. I need the doctor to tell me why this happened. But he can't because he doesn't have this information. This would explain why she did not pass the 10-inch stillborn fetus after mid-October, because the fetus was passed on July 23rd, when she was less than 8 weeks pregnant. Any insight you can offer into this would be greatly appreciated. When addressing these questions, please keep in mind expert testimony may be excluded if it fails to meet the reliable requirements of Rule 702 of the Rules of Evidence and case law interpreting those rules, such as Daubert v. Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals, 509 U.S. 579 in 1993. In general, the court will be interested in evaluating your opinions based on the following 5 factors. Number 1, whether the expert's theory or technique can be or has been tested. 2, whether the theory or technique has been subjected to peer review and publication. 3, whether the technique or theory is generally accepted within the relevant scientific community. 4, the known or potential rate of error of the technique or theory that when applied. And 5, the existence and maintenance of standards controlling application of the technique. State Montgomery v. Miller, and that was approximately in 2014. Of course, this does not mean you need to provide any lengthy peer-reviewed analysis to support your answers, but if you are aware of any studies or publications which support your opinions, it would be helpful if you could cite them where applicable. As I mentioned before, our trial in this matter is set for June 10th, 2024, and the court has ordered both sides to complete their disclosures, including expert disclosures, no later than 30 days prior to the trial, i.e. May 10th, 2024. Of course, if you have any questions or would like any other information about Owens, Mr. Echard, or the case, please do not hesitate to ask, and I will happily provide you with anything I can. My cell number is, and I am available to speak with you at any time. Redacted his cell phone number. Very truly yours, David Gingras. CC'd the client. P.S. After this package of information was finalized, Owens realized we failed to mention one additional detail. Owens states around 2014 she was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Laura indicates that she has received care related to that condition, and attached on the following pages are reports from a pelvic CT scan done by Southwest Medical Imaging in June of 2022, about 1 year prior to the event which gave the rise to the case. Owens indicates she had problems with ovarian cysts from time to time, as this report appears to confirm. Laura is not sure what impact the PCOS had, if any, on her pregnancy in this case, but she wanted to mention this just in case you found it relevant. I was never diagnosed with PCOS. If I didn't, I would think I had it or something close to it, because I had cysts that would continually grow on my ovaries all the time. And one of them, when I was 13, was as big as a baseball, had twisted my ovary, which is causing torsion, and it ended up killing my ovary, and it started to rupture. Thankfully, they were able to take the ovary, which had the cyst, out when I was 13 years old. Then I ended up having my 3 pregnancies, and I had cysts in between them. None that grew like the one when I was 13, but 10 years, almost exactly, my other ovary decided to do the same thing. It had a baseball-sized cyst that had caused torsion and was killing my ovary. This one wasn't rupturing yet. We got to it before that. And due to me now not having any ovaries because we had to remove them, I had a hysterectomy, and I was 23. Ovarian cysts hurt really bad, and they can cause a lot of problems, which is also why I don't see her not going and getting care through her pregnancy. Like, this is no joking aside. If she goes through this, I feel for her. But I also don't buy that she's not going to seek care to make sure that one of those cysts wasn't a tumor, wasn't cancerous, that those cysts were benign, because they can be cancerous, which also could pop positive HCG. But if she's seeing somebody regularly, but she hasn't seen him in a year, so she's not receiving care all the time for it, because that's something that she would need to get followed up on. It's something the doctor is going to want to continue to see you on. And she should have a gynecologist that is helping her with that, because the gynecologist is who deals with that. So why wasn't that gynecologist used in this case? Like, this truly pisses me off, because if Laura's situation was real, I have been in her shoes in many ways. And so I would understand certain things. But because I have been in a person's shoes who has been through this type of stuff, I don't buy anything from her story, because I have personal knowledge. We're not the same body or the same person, but I have dealt with very, very similar things to what she is claiming. And what she is claiming does not add up. And I don't care what a doctor that doesn't have all the facts has to say about it. And maybe that's cruel. But like I said, I'm not dissing the doctor. He is doing the best he can with the information he has. He just doesn't have all of it. And this is why people are so pissed off, David Owens. You are taking people's story and turning them into something laughable. And none of this should be a laughable scenario. Miscarriages are not funny. PCOS, not funny. None of it is funny. But because Owens is so dang ridiculous and doesn't live in reality, it makes it a little bit funny. And the fact that a man is buying into her crap. Her attorney is buying her crap. It's ridiculous. Let's continue on. Sorry for my soliloquy. All right, here is the CT without contrast. No body wall hernias are identified. No inguinal lymphedema is seen. Moderate to large amounts of stool, so she is full of shit, are visualized through the colon. The rectum is mostly decompressed. No free fluid is identified. Uterus is present. Bilateral ovarian cysts and follicles are seen with complex heterogeneous components in the left ovary measuring up to 5.1 centimeters. No acute osseous findings, impression, no inguinal. Okay, so bilateral ovarian follices with some complexity with the left ovary, likely partial hemorrhagic. No routine follow exam is required. So 5 centimeters is as what? Let's see here. Well, that's a pretty big size one. I would think there should be some follow-up. 5 centimeters is about the size of a lime, or wait, is that a lime? Or a kiwi. About the size of a lime or a kiwi. A regular size lime or so that's pretty big. If you imagine the size of your ovary and then something in that's the size of a kiwi or a lime, either one, they'd both be painful, is rubbing up against you in your pelvis. That's painful. And that sucks that she went through that. And she went through that in this June 7th, 2022. And so then there's the written thing that she had, and then a patient was given discharge information. So it looks like she went to the emergency room. All right, then let's see. This is her affidavit. Let's see if she changed any. She resides with her parents. She is claiming she weighs 91 pounds now at 5'5". Don't think so. Investment properties on LinkedIn. Real estate, blurted. Feeling was mutual. Flirty text messages, invited him to come over, or he invited me to come over shortly after arriving. Clayton offered me THC, marijuana, edible gummies, which I accepted. Clayton also took at least one edible, and he appeared fairly high at the time. Then Clayton and I began kissing while seated on the couch, eventually led to both of us removing all our clothes. I performed oral on Clayton. He finished in my mouth, which later swallowed. On the couch. Okay, she's still claiming the R-ing here. Although Clayton's conduct might fit the technical definition of R or sexual assault, I do not want to accuse him of any crime, nor do I want him to be criminally prosecuted. You don't want to accuse him of a crime, but you're saying that he R'd you? No, you're saying that you don't want him charged or to accuse him of that because you know damn well he didn't do it. After the session, went to his bedroom, slept, night, woke up, physical again. I performed oral, climaxed in my mouth. After we were done, I swallowed and went to the bathroom. Claims I trapped myself by inseminating myself, spitting his sperm from my mouth into my hand and then inserting the sperm into my bee. That is not true. I swallowed both times, and I did not do anything intentional to inseminate myself. If I wanted to trap Clayton, I would have told him I was willing to have intercourse, and it was clear to me he would have accepted that offer. Instead, I told Clayton I did not want to have sex because I had no intention of getting pregnant. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it because you claim everybody of R. You are the girl who cried wolf too many times. After the physical activity that took place on the evening of May 20th, Clayton and I reviewed some properties. After viewing the property, I asked him to prepare written purchase offers on 2 properties. As requested, Clayton prepared both offers, which I signed. So you're saying he didn't prepare them? Okay. He said earlier that he didn't prepare them. Apparently he did because he signed them. He just didn't submit them because he told you he was going to give them to somebody else to submit. To demonstrate my offers were serious, I attached proof of funds to the offers. Well, look at you and you're richity rich. Wish I had that kind of money in my bank account. Still doesn't prove you're pregnant. 2017. Shortly after the offers were signed, Clayton told me he sent them to the sellers on their agents. Several days later, after I did not receive any updates, I asked Clayton whether he had sent the offers and whether he had heard anything back. Clayton's response was that yes, he had sent the offers, and no, he had not heard anything back. Where is that text message that says that? Because when we go back to the original documents in part 2 or part 3 of this case, that's not what was said. 18, I did not know at the time, but later learned that Clayton lied to me about submitting these offers. He never sent them to the sellers or their agents. As a result, my offers were never considered or accepted by the sellers. Well, probably best for those sellers not have to deal with you, because maybe one of them would have been the father of the baby. On May 31st, 2023, I took a home pregnancy test which showed a faint positive result. This caused me to believe I might be pregnant. I hate when people believe faint positive results. I hate the faint positive results. To confirm the home test on June 1st, why is somebody mowing again? Went to my local Banner Urgent Care located in Scottsdale. Upon arriving at the location, I informed the nurse I thought I might be pregnant based on a faint line on the home pregnancy test I took the day before. I did not ask the nurse for any specific type of test. I simply told her I wanted to know if I was pregnant. And here's a screenshot of it. Here's a screenshot of it. And then here's the Banner Health screenshot too. The test results I received from Banner were positive for pregnancy. Those results were, and still are, here they go again. I'm so sorry. Are still available in my Banner Health patient portal as shown. And I hope they got into her Banner Health account and saw these and didn't just go by this. But I think they do have the Banner Health. And then it says she was seen for pregnancy. That was why she was seen. And she had a urine test that said positive. But that's it. I don't know why they didn't test her for more. I would really like to know that. But I guess we will never know. More of her affidavits. After confirming I was pregnant, I contacted Clayton and tried to discuss the situation with him. I was not sexually active with any other men from Clayton around the time of conception. Clayton was very dismissive and angry, claimed it was impossible for me to be pregnant because he claimed we never had sex, even though we did, albeit only briefly. Clayton eventually agreed to meet with me on June 19th, 2023 at his home. When I arrived around 7:45, bought me a pregnancy test, demanded I take the test in front of him. I complied with him watching. I understand Clayton has claimed that I would not allow him to watch me take the test, but that is false. He watched me directly the entire time. Yeah, he states that you went into the bathroom. Let's see. Showed positive. Despite this, Clayton continued to insist I was not pregnant and that if I was, he was not the father. He later asked me to stop contacting him. Well, if he thinks you only had oral and you come up pregnant, he does not think he's the father. Because 1 + 2 does not equal 4. So somebody else has to be the father. Whether you tell him you haven't ever been with anybody before doesn't mean that you actually haven't been with somebody before. Like, he doesn't know. He just has to take your word. Which you're lying to him about being pregnant and that it being his kid if y'all actually only did oral. So why should he believe that you hadn't slept with anybody else either? You know how many people on Mari have said the same thing? On the 2nd, 2023, while traveling in Southern California, I made an appointment with Planned Parenthood for the purpose of obtaining pills to medically terminate the pregnancy at the time. Clayton had told me that he had no intention of being a father, and that if I decided to carry through the pregnancy, he would have nothing to do with the child. Clayton's attitude was horrible treatment, caused me a great deal of stress and anxiety, and I was very close to making a decision to terminate it. I don't understand why you didn't if you weren't going to take care of the pregnancy. If you weren't going to take care of the babies, why didn't you terminate it? Because you still ended up terminating it if in fact you were pregnant. Whether you took a pill or not, you not seeking care terminated the pregnancy. But I don't believe you were pregnant, so therefore my statement makes no difference. My mother drove me to Planned Parenthood location on July 2nd, 2023, but she did not come into the facility with me. I went in the appointment alone, and I explained my situation to the care provider as a part of my evaluation. The care provider at Planned Parenthood performed a sonogram on me and verified that I was in fact pregnant. You were in California on July 2nd, 2023. Your mother drove you, so she would have been there with you. And says I took a photo of the sonogram screen with my phone, but I did not want Clayton to know where I had gone for the appointment. To conceal that information, I modified the image to change the facility name from Planned Parenthood to SML. And I also changed the date from July 2nd to July 7th. A copy of the modified sonogram image is shown below. That is not a picture of the screen. It's just not. It's not. It can't be. Because that's not what sonograms look like nowadays. And the fact that Planned Parenthood does not do an ultrasound. So once again, you have provided lies to the court. Lies to your expert. Your expert cannot give a valid opinion based on lies. 31. Other than changing the top part of the image to alter the facility name and date, I did not change any other part of the image. This image was taken at a Planned Parenthood in California on July 2nd, 2023. I did not find this image online. I did not take someone else's image and pretend it was mine. I obviously regret doing this, but I made a mistake due to the amount of stress and anxiety and depression I was experiencing. I don't believe you. Like, this is so ridiculous. I know I need to prove to him that I'm pregnant, but I'm going to make sure I don't prove to him that I'm pregnant. All right, let's see here. Okay, so July 7th, there was a horse thing. So, was it on July 2nd? But yet, we still have not been able to track down the records from July 2nd in California. There are no records. Planned Parenthood has none. Although I had not made a final decision about terminating the pregnancy, I wanted Planned Parenthood to give me the medication so I could take it at home with me and have it available in the case I made the decision to terminate. However, Planned Parenthood told me patients were not allowed to leave with abortion pills. Yeah, because they don't want people selling them on the streets. So if I wanted to abort the pregnancy, I would have to take the pills while present in their office. Because of this, I left Planned Parenthood without any abortion medications. You still did not. This is not a picture of a screen of your ultrasound. It's just not. Because this is not what they look like anymore at all. It's just so ridiculous. Okay. This is the top of the first image on this paper. I blocked out the main parts of it, and where it says there's larger versions, I'm not including that in this. I did not include that page. That she says they were took on July 23rd, 2023. They're Exhibit 2 in this document. If you want to go see the full-fledged pic, if you haven't seen it, then by all means go ahead, but I'm just not going to put it in here. Let's see what she says. 33. Several weeks later, on July 23rd, 2023, I experienced some bleeding and passed what appeared to be 2 small fleshy objects, as shown in photos below. You said they were fetal sacs, which is a big difference. These objects were very small, no more than 1 inch or 2. Clayton's lawyer repeatedly asked me later whether those objects were the size of your hand. My response was always smaller than my hand. Okay, so if, I'm going to use a laser pointer, if Laura had this, whatever, it doesn't look like fetal sacs, maybe a blood clot. Women, you know what I'm talking about. But I still think you should go watch the Dave Neal video. But this top part here, this white line that goes all the way around this piece right here, that is an act of photoshopping. Because why would this be glowing white? That's very odd for that to be like that. That is why we think that while this toilet paper stuff could be real, but this added gross part is photoshopped in. And we know she uses Photoshop. So that is where we are coming from on that. Again, Dave Neal figured this out. "35. At this time, I did not know if I had miscarried, so I immediately contacted a telehealth provider for guidance, as shown below." So she puts this number in her phone. Okay, it's a bit hard to tell exactly what that is. It would be unusual to have a miscarriage and a past pregnancy tissue without developing more significant bleeding or cramping. A few options: you can monitor symptoms to see how you're feeling, and if you develop more bleeding, cramping, or other new symptoms, reach out to us. You could also get evaluated in person, non-emergently, by a primary care or an OB clinic, or if you're planning on using abortion pills, you can certainly go ahead with using those. But she can change the date on the top of this. Dave Neal also talked about that. And Owens says, okay, perfect. So I can pass tissue with it being a miscarriage. I am not sure I want an abortion and haven't taken pills. Typically, there are more symptoms with a miscarriage, but again, this is hard to tell for certain because it sounds like you're very early in the pregnancy. I would recommend reaching out to either your primary care or your primary OB provider tomorrow to let them know what's going on so they can evaluate you in person. See? They told her, go see somebody. Go to your OBGYN go to somebody to get checked out. She chose not to. She chose to be dumb and be like, well, if I can still play like I'm pregnant if I don't go and get it checked out by the doctor. All it does is make you look stupid. Figured out what is going on with the pregnancy. They told her to go. But they're telling her this could be a miscarriage or it couldn't be, but you need to go see somebody. But she doesn't have a primary care or an OB person to go see, even though she should have a gynecologist for her PCOS. And she has insurance. You are telling me this woman goes to Planned Parenthood and urgent cares and stuff and never goes to a regular doctor that she has, specialists that she has? You know what people do that? Go to urgent cares and ERs and stuff? It's people without insurance or people who are on state insurance because they cannot afford those things. People with money don't do this. In my opinion, but also in my life experience, I have not seen someone do this that is well off. And I'm not talking like rich type people. I'm like just middle class to upper class. Don't do this. Why are you texting somebody about this? You're bleeding? You're worried about those babies? Go to a hospital now. "36. Based on my discussions with the telehealth provider, it was unclear whether I had just miscarried, so I decided to wait several days and see if I had any further symptoms. A few days later, around July 25th, I took another pregnancy home test, which continued to show positive. Your doctor said it was unclear. She did not tell you, hey, in a few days, if nothing else happens, pee on a stick and go take it. She told you to go to the doctor. "37. Over the next week, I felt fine, did not experience any further bleeding or other symptoms. On August 1st, 2023, I took another home pregnancy test, and that showed positive. Based on my inability to communicate with Clayton about the pregnancy, I filed a paternity petition in court on August 1st, 2023. At the time I filed the petition, I believed I was still pregnant and that Clayton was the father." Why could you not have just waited until after you had the babies to do this? Why did you need to file this while you were pregnant currently? Like, what was the rush on filing this when you could have waited till the babies were here to do this? And just been like, okay, well, he'll see. Heck, take him to Maury. He would have seen on Maury. That would have been an episode. The Bachelor finds out. That would have been huge numbers. But you couldn't have waited. You thought that you were going to get away with this. 39. Between August 1st and early October 2023, I experienced weight gain, especially in my abdomen, as shown in the photos below, taken on September 19, 2023. So we've seen these photos. There is warping of the door in the one with the beige bra and black pants. So, I don't know. And this is also shown on a video. It's not an actual picture with metadata. So, we can't believe, we don't know where these came from either. 40. On August 15th, 2023, I paid $7.25 to a company called Rabgen Diagnostics for a fetal DNA test. Unfortunately, Clayton refused to submit a sample for testing, so I had to cancel the first test with Rabgen. Later in September, early October, both Clayton and I submitted samples to Rabgen for testing. I later received a call from Rabgen stating the initial tests were inconclusive because there was little to no fetal DNA found. As a part of my further treatment and evaluation, I had a blood test done on October 16th, 2023, which showed an HCG level of 102, which I kept saying 102, and then Gingras was saying 104. Like, he doesn't even know what he's stating. It is my understanding that HCG level is low, and at this stage of pregnancy indicates the pregnancy is non-viable. Exactly. So why did you go into court in October and November stating you were pregnant? Explain that. Because even if you were pregnant, at the beginning of this case, you still doctored imaging and you still lied about being pregnant when you were told you were not pregnant. You didn't have a viable pregnancy, which means you were not pregnant. A month later, on November 14th, 2023, I had a gynecological visit with a provider at MomDoc at that time. I was given 2 separate pregnancy tests. Both showed negative results. Records from this visit are attached as Exhibit 6. To be clear, Clayton claims I faked this pregnancy and I was never pregnant. This is absolutely false. I believe I was pregnant and that the pregnancy ended with a miscarriage. I know that I was not sexually active with any other men other than Clayton during the period in which conception occurred. So I believe Clayton was the father. Good for you. Now we see this Sonora Quest Labs, and she just bounces all over the place. Like, why don't you have a regular person to go to? Like, why are you bouncing all over? California to Arizona, to any labs, to Sonora Labs, from MomDoc to Planned Parenthood, to Banner Health. Like, why are you bouncing around? It's weird. This one says HCG quantitative 102H, which means high. This is what she's submitting. But what she submitted to Reality Steve and Dave Neal was a way higher number than this. And do we have the actual information from Sonora Quest Labs, or do we just have this picture? We need answers. I am aware Clayton has claimed I may have taken some sort of drugs or hormones in an attempt to create a false positive on a pregnancy test I took. Again, that is completely false. I did not take any drugs, hormones, nor did I do anything to manipulate my HCG levels, except for submit a copy to Dave Neal and submit a copy to Reality Steve, and Dave Neal got a copy, which he did not doctor, and he has all the metadata that you need to back that up. I do not even know what HCG levels are, other than they are something medical professionals use to determine if a woman is pregnant. I'm sure you've been on Google. I, Laura Owens, do hereby swear or affirm under penalty of perjury. I'm glad, because you have lied under the penalty of perjury, that I am the petitioner in the above stated matter, and that I have read the foregoing document and know the contents thereof, and the contents are true of my own knowledge and belief. Pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1746, I declare under penalty of perjury, under the laws of the United States of America, that the foregoing is true and correct. Executed on April 16th, 2024, signed Laura Owens. We've already seen Exhibit 2. And the exhibits that they're including is the Banner Health pregnancy test, the images of the tissue discharge, the Barrow-Zyman visit summary, Barrow epilepsy pregnancy specialist appointment, HCG test from Sonora Quest, and mom doc records is what is being included. This is the positive Banner Health test result, which we've already seen. This is Barrow epilepsy. Doesn't really have any information on it. Again, no information. Assessment and plan executed from office visit note neurology, BNI, on 10/17/2023. Owens is a 33-year-old female with a history of TBI, epilepsy, depression, and ADHD, not currently on ADHD meds during pregnancy, who is here to establish with epilepsy clinic today. She is currently 22 weeks pregnant with twins, boy and girl. We will check a lamotrigine level. No baseline level available for comparison based off of LTG level. We will adjust her LTG if needed. Interesting. So 10/17, this doctor states that Owens is 22 weeks pregnant with twins, and there's a boy and a girl. How she saw that, I don't know. But I don't think you know why it says she's 22 weeks pregnant with twins, boy and a girl? A day after she found out her HCG level on 10/16, well, she might not have had the results yet, so I might give her the benefit of that. She went and reported that she was 22 weeks pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. This is Owens self-reporting to this epilepsy doctor, because I was fixing to say, how did the epilepsy doctor say this? Because she didn't confirm it. Her first seizure was in May 2017. She had 3 seizures in May 2017, which have not reoccurred since she started the lamotrigine. She was told she had generalized epilepsy in 2020 via a routine EEG with the neurologist in San Francisco. We discussed how generalized epilepsies are usually not associated with TBI, and that focal epilepsies are usually more associated with TBI. We will repeat in a EEG at BNI. Brain MRI in May 2023 was normal. Okay, good. She has had a scan of her brain. All right. So we know that according to the brain image, it's okay. So it's just her being stupid. Okay. She does have daily body jerks, which she calls myoclonic jerks, and symptoms she calls vocal tics. They have increased recently. Today we discuss the following regarding pregnancy and epilepsy. Continue prenatal vitamin and folic acid, 4 milligrams. We recommended breastfeeding. She will get a monthly AED levels, and we will follow up by phone. This was done at 9:02 p.m. Okay. Maybe that's just when the notes were put in. I don't know any doctors that are I don't know any doctors open at 9:02 p.m. Like, none of my doctors are open that late. Epilepsy discharge diagnosis, pregnancy discharge diagnosis, generalized epilepsy, traumatic brain injury, which is the TBI, myoclonic jerking, discharge attending physician, FU pregnancy. It's exactly what it is. FU pregnancy. No known allergies. It's very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Patient says she is currently driving. She delivers in 2 to 3 months. It explains that she spent 62 minutes for this patient's visits and then breaks it down. There was informed consent. She discussed she would evaluate the patient and recommend diagnostic and treatments based on the assessment. Sessions are not recorded. Health information is protected. Our team would provide follow-up care in person if and when the patient needs it. Members of the care team present at the time include Dr. Chen, and then calls us when she enters hospital to deliver so we can follow AED levels after delivery. Plan continue lamotrigine. Check LTG levels tomorrow and monthly after. I will follow up via the portal with any LTG dose adjustments, which when I was saying FU pregnancy, it means follow-up pregnancy appointment. Routine EEG ordered, continued P&B and folic, which is prenatal vitamins and the folic acid. This is just all of her future appointments to test her levels. Then the medicines that she is on. Says she has ADHD, depression, domestic violence. That was modified, okay. Epilepsy. She had an endoscopy, something with the foot. Has an umbilical hernia. That is not fixed, which can cause the abdomen to swell. And then a history of domestic violence that is active right now as of 2/9/2023. Okay. She is a non-smoker, and then it gives no other data, no family history. Again, I think this is a page we've already seen, but it's entered here again. Oh no, okay. No, this one was from back in December or October. This is the brain injury and sports neurology outpatient EEG performed on March 9th, 2020. Abnormal due to intermittent generalized sharp and slow wave discharge occurring in runs from 1 to 3 seconds. MRI brain without contrast was performed. CT myofascial performed. Acute facial bone fracture, asymmetrical anterior of the left mandibular console relative to leftward same axilla relative to me. Findings are non-specific, may be positional versus related to soft tissue injury. MRI of the TMJ, which when people say they have TMJ, just so you know, did you know that everybody has a TMJ? A temporal mandible jaw. What everybody does not have is the TMJI, which is what it actually is when people refer to having TMJ. They just say TMJ because it is happening in the TMJ, but it's not actually called TMJ. Maybe the benefit to better assess for any discal or ligamentaceous injury, epilepsy during pregnancy, epilepsy unspecified, cognitive concerns, jaw pain. I wonder why she has jaw pain. Maybe if she would quit giving oral. Bang! As well as current worsening mood symptoms after sustaining multiple traumatic brain injuries. Current worsening mood symptoms after mild traumatic brain injuries, as well as strangulation injuries due to domestic violence. There she is, claiming Michael Maraschini, still in 2023. She was also a victim of likely date R and assault in 2022. So Greg date R'd her and assaulted her in 2022? Okay. Her symptoms are explained by these injuries and are persistent, which is expected given her psychiatric history as well as repeat and traumatic nature of her injuries. What about falling off of a horse? Do you think that has anything to do with it, or do you leave that out, Laura? She is not established. She is currently 21 weeks pregnant with twins. She has not yet established with an epilepsy clinic or with an ENT. She continues to have jerks, and she has not yet done an EEG1 previously ordered. Why haven't you done these tests? I will check her serum lamotrigine levels and increase her lamotrigine to 400. I will have her follow up with an epilepsy clinic. She remains on folic acid. She continues to have jaw pain and is going to call an ENT to follow up. I previously ordered an MRI of the TMJ, which has not been completed. She goes to these doctors and she doesn't get anything completed. Why? Because a lot of this stuff will be debunked as soon as she does. But all this is her self-reporting. None of this is actually what the doctor saw. They discussed, patient confirmed inappropriate aspects. She is following with a trauma therapist. She has not started the propofol I previously ordered for her tremor and anxiety, but will hold off on her having to start it now. She will go in 4 months. She will return to the clinics 4 to 6 weeks. I have contacted the BNI Epilepsy Clinic to get her scheduled for a consultation there ASAP. And more lamotrigine levels. I would like to know what these levels are. Then we also have the HCG test, which we've already gone over, and those are possibly fraud. Here's the mom doc information, pregnancy history, 8/12/23, 8 weeks, SAB, 01/01/19, 8 weeks, EAB. Okay. EAB. Elective abortion. Okay. So in 2019, she had an elective abortion. All right. And then it says in 23, 8/12 of 2023, which is right after she filed the paternity case here. It says at 8 weeks, she had a spontaneous abortion or miscarriage as of 8/12/23. So how, or is this saying, at 8 weeks she aborted the baby electively, and at 8 weeks she miscarried? That's patterns. Is this self-reporting? Or is this at 8 weeks on August 12th? That's what it seems like. At 8 weeks, on August 12th, 23, she spontaneously aborted or had a miscarriage. 01/01/19 weeks. Because I would think if she was 6 weeks or 24 weeks, they would put the 24 weeks SAB, 21 weeks SAB. But they didn't. So did she know as of 8/12/23? This does not look good right now. I don't know if they will catch it. Last pap smear, last missed period, 11/9/2023. So she knew she had a period on 11/9. Was she still on her period November 2nd? Did she start her period November 2nd? Inquiring minds would like to know. History of presenting illness. Laura is 33. She had a spontaneous abortion or miscarriage one time. Possible pregnancy. Patient states she had a positive HPT, home pregnancy test, in June, and then she had pregnancy confirmed by Planned Parenthood. She had an initial urine screen there which shows a twin pregnancy. She did not have subsequent care. This is where it says she did not get care, which pisses me off. But I want to know about this. Also, you know what's missing in this pregnancy history? Greg's pregnancy. That's what's missing here. Why didn't she include that? And then she hadn't had a pap smear since 2019. And that pap smear was abnormal findings. We don't know any more than that. This page sure says a lot. Starting bleeding a few weeks after the urine screen. Patient reports she passed 2 sacs. Appeared to have membrane, but denies having much bleeding outside of that. Okay, so she told the mom doc she passed 2 sacs. She didn't say fetal tissue. She said nothing like that. And it appeared to have membrane. In those pictures, if you have seen them, does that look like any of that? Because I say no. She was worried about what that could mean and continued to take HPT, home pregnancy test, to assess if she was still pregnant. She ordered her own HCG test through Labs Now type place, which showed a very low HCG level. She told this was not consistent with a viable pregnancy. See, this is where we find out that she was told back then that she did not have a viable pregnancy. She reports she had bleeding last week that was like a period and lasted 2 days. Okay, so she would have had that on the 9th, which would have been 10th and 11th, or 7, 8, 9, or 8, 9, 10, somewhere around that 9. She only bled for 2 days, supposedly. She comes to mom doc to find out if she is still pregnant. Pregnancy was unplanned. Pap smear performed today. Mammogram not indicated today. Blood work not indicated today. Pertinent negatives include anxiety, irritability, back pain, bloating, blood and stool, hematuria, chills, depression, frequent cirrhosis, loss of appetite, discharge, urgency, quilted pain, blank pain, abdomen, discharge, fever, bowel changes, dizziness, hesitancy, incontinence, mood changes, abdominal pelvic pain, constipation, nausea, vomiting, vaginal bleeding, weight gain, weight loss, hot flashes, sweats, and dysuria. Those are negatives today. She doesn't have any of those today when she went. Gynecological history, unusual periods. She started at age 13. They were irregular. 6 days, heavy flow, mid-cycle. Clots occasionally. Severe cramps within 1 to 2 days. Or less than 6 days was the duration of the flow. Periods now. Cycles are irregular. Flow 1 day. Light flow. Mid-cycle bleeding. None. No clots. No cramps. Wonder why. Bloating, irritability, depression, denies other problems. Menopausal in A. She is sexually active. Age of that starting was 21. I find a hard time believing that, but okay. Good for her if she waited till she was 21. I just don't believe it. Denies problems with orgasms, denies pain, denies bleeding, denies other problems. Current contraceptive, denies. She is on nothing. A BSc, done regularly, denies lumps, denies any problems in the breast. Infertility is not applicable. And denies STDs. She had a pap smear in 2019. She denies gastro problems, urinary problems, and vaginal problems. She doesn't have to wear contacts. No cardiovascular, no respiratory, no musculoskeletal, no neurological. She denies seizures. Why did she deny seizures here? Or did they just not talk about it? Denies psychiatric. I'm thinking they just didn't go into that because neurological and psychiatric, because it talks about depression, crying, and anxiety, trouble sleeping, which are all things that she deals with according to her. So I'm guessing she either didn't tell the mom doc that stuff, or they just didn't actually go into any of the other systems. She only says she's on one medication, but according to the other stuff, she's supposed to be taking other meds. She says she doesn't smoke, she doesn't drink. Well, she shouldn't be drinking if she's pregnant, so I can see why she would say no right now if she's trying to act like she's pregnant. I would love to know if she's been out with friends and actually has a drink, and if somebody has a picture of her drinking during this whole time, from May to now. Does anybody have pictures of Owens with friends having a drink with the gals? Please send them to me. Today's physical exam, well nourished, well groomed. BMI is 22. She's 5'5", 133 pounds. Everything else looks fine. And let's see, they encountered a well woman exam, negative pregnancy test, they screened for STDs, and encountered for other general counseling. So they talked about using contraceptives. All right, plans and alternatives. Urine P test negative ×2, and discussed the abortion miscarriage complete. No additional workup needed at this time. Discussed causes for early pregnancy loss, and when evaluated for reoccurring pregnancy loss would start. Discussed forms of birth control and challenges of birth control while on lamotrigine. Encouraged either depot or IUDs. Patient undecided at this time, and pamphlets were given on Mirena and Paragard. Patient will consider the options. This girl needs to, but she can't have those kind of contraceptives because then she couldn't claimed she was pregnant with people's kids. There was a pap smear done. She said, continue your healthy diet, exercise, calcium supplements, and multivitamin. Be careful, very careful, and lengthy instructions given regarding possible complications or interactions. We have discussed these conditions under which the patient should call. And then they sent off the tests, and she is negative for STDs, so that is good. I don't know why we needed to know that she had no STDs, but that's good to know. This is, what is this? Okay, this is LabCorp for, I don't know what date this was done. This doesn't say, but it says negative for intrafetal lesion or malignancy. This is done at LabCorp. Scientology, endocervical. So this must have to do with her PCOS that she did. It just doesn't have a date on it. Then he includes an article about PCOS and bloating. Many women with PCOS have problems with bloating, often this aggravated by certain foods. The list of possible food culprits is varied, but includes foods that contain a carbohydrate called raffinose. This carb doesn't digest well for some people, leading to increased gas productions. Food in this group include asparagus, beans, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and cauliflower. Then avoid those foods, please. Owens, do not eat asparagus, beans, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and cauliflower. Stay away from those so you don't bloat. Knowing food triggers your PCOS, bloating can help reduce your abdominal pain and discomfort. So if you don't eat those things that trigger it, hopefully you won't bloat. It's not a guarantee, but it makes it less likely. Other foods that can cause bloating include dairy products. If you are lactose intolerant, certain whole grains, fruits, carbonated drinks, and products containing artificial sweeteners, the PCOS tracker can help you keep tabs on these troublesome foods. Simply writing down trigger foods can help reduce PCOS bloating. Well, if that article doesn't tell us everything, here's the Cleveland Clinic article that he's talked about and the lovely sperms. How soon can you tell you're pregnant? Home pregnancy tests can detect pregnancy just 2 weeks after ovulation. That is true. For some people, getting pregnant can take time and planning. For others, it just happens. If you have unprotected sex recently, you may be wondering how long it may be before you know whether you're pregnant. Those over-the-counter tests say they are 99% accurate, but with something as important as whether you're going to have a baby, can you really rely on a piece of plastic you picked up from the supermarket health and beauty department? Yes. So this is where Genghis gets his 99% accurate, and it is reliable. Home pregnancy tests are how most people find out they are pregnant, and for good reason, says OBGYN. They're safe, accurate, and almost as quick to detect early pregnancy as a doctor's blood test. Dr. Robinson Tidmore breaks down the journey to pregnancy and how early you can figure it out. Conception and implantation, a timeline. Without getting all birds and bees about it, there are several steps that go into your body to create new life. A quick look at these different phases will help you to better understand when pregnancy actually happens and when it can be detected. Ovulation, about 2 weeks before your period. This window to become pregnant, about 2 weeks after your last period, smack in the middle of your typical 28-day cycle, is when you ovulate. That means your ovary has released an egg and it's hanging around in your fallopian tubes waiting for the sperm. You'll ovulate for about 12 to 24 hours. If the egg isn't fertilized, it will be reabsorbed by your body. Conception, about 24 hours after unprotected sex. If you have unprotected sex intercourse during ovulation window, sperm starts swimming all fast and furious to reach the egg. It really is an Olympic race. Conception happens if a sperm wiggles its way into a fertilized egg. It's like, hey, nice to meet you. You look hot. Oh, thank you. Let's create a baby. Sorry, that was cringy. Implantation, about 6 days after unprotected sex. After an egg is fertilized, it attaches itself to the lining of your uterus. That triggers a placenta to begin to form. Pregnancy hormones release about 11 days, blah, blah, blah. As the placenta forms, it releases HCG, also called the pregnancy hormone. Detecting early pregnancy. Pregnancy tests include home test, blood tests taken at the doctor's office, measure HCGs to detect pregnancies. Those levels will rise quick and continue to rise through the first 2 to 3 months of your pregnancy. Your HCG levels will begin to fall again, but will remain present through your pregnancy. But hers didn't rise really quick, if at all. Home pregnancy tests. Home pregnancy tests, the sticks you find at the drugstore that measure HCG in your urine, are most people's first step. First step. Number one step. Meaning there are other steps to follow the first step. Because it would not be a step if it was just how it was done. All right, you pee on a stick and then a baby just comes out. You don't do anything in between. But no, there's lots to do. Very, very busy during the pregnancy. Let's see. One study says they're the go for 76% of people seeking to detect pregnancy. For people with regular menstrual cycles, a home pregnancy test can generally detect pregnancy about 4 weeks from the first day of your last period. That's if your period is less than punctual. Dr. Robinson Tidmore suggests taking a home pregnancy test 2 weeks after having unprotected sex is a good rule of thumb. And yes, you can trust that the results on the stick are for real. In general, home pregnancy tests are sensitive and accurate, Dr. Robin Tidmore says. Some of the tests on the market can detect pregnancy even before a missed period. That's what happened with my daughter. But the effectiveness can vary. You can be confident, though, that if your period is usually regular and you're a day or two late your period, the results from the home-based test will be accurate. Notice it says if you're regular. If you're not regular, you should probably just go see a doctor. In some cases, a healthcare provider may order a blood test to determine if you're pregnant. This is most often done for people who are undergoing fertility treatments, or if, say, you're about to have surgery or have medical tests performed where knowing whether you're pregnant is important. I think knowing whether you're pregnant or not is important. I think everybody gets at least one in the beginning. And if they think you have miscarried or something, then maybe they will do another one. A doctor's blood test can detect pregnancy just a few days earlier than a home test, usually around 10 days after you ovulate. Early pregnancy symptoms. If your cycle doesn't always match up to the calendar and you haven't been actively testing yourself, Owens actively tests herself. It is a hobby of hers to pee on sticks. She should put that in her Tinder profile. You may notice some changes that you can be your first clue that you might be pregnant. Pro tip, no two pregnancies will look or feel the same. If you're relying on symptoms alone to determine whether you may be pregnant, you will want to be extra vigilant about checking in on yourself and assessing any changes. Dr. Robinson Tidmore advises. Some people, some symptoms may appear right around the time you missed your period. Light spotting, called implantation spotting, can be a sign of early pregnancy for some people. This happens as the embryo attaches to your uterus. Tidmore says it can be easy to dismiss implantation spotting because it may happen around the time you expect your period anyways, but implantation spotting will likely be lighter than your period and probably won't last as long. Some other common early pregnancy symptoms include breast tenderness, dizzy or lightheadedness, fatigue. Fatigue was a big one. And the boobs, they just hurt. Mild cramping, sensitivity to taste and smells. Yes, that lovely morning sickness that actually happens 24 hours of the day. One symptom to be especially cautious of is pain that you feel in just one side of an ectopic tubal pregnancy. That happens when a fertilized egg implants in a fallopian tube instead of your uterus. This can be dangerous. This is why you need to go to a doctor to make sure this is not happening to you. Owens knows this. Talking to your doctor. Oh, so you found out you're pregnant? Now what? One of your first calls should be to a doctor's office. But don't expect that they'll need to see you right away. Some people think that if they had a positive home pregnancy test, we'll need them to come into the office and confirm they are pregnant. Dr. Tidmore says because home tests are so accurate, most healthcare providers will accept that positive test as confirmation of your pregnancy and will look to schedule you several weeks later. Yeah. My daughters, they wouldn't schedule her until she was at least 6 weeks pregnant for her first prenatal appointment. That's because if you were going to have a miscarriage within the 6 weeks, if something's going to happen before then, or you decide to have an abortion by then, that there's no need for you to go in and have the appointment. But guess what? When you go in for that appointment several weeks later, as Dr. Tidmore says here, they're going to confirm it with a blood test, a pee test, and an ultrasound. When you go to the doctor, as you should, because it should be one of the first calls that you make. At the first prenatal appointment, expect your health care provider will perform tests like an ultrasound to confirm your pregnancy is progressing and to confirm your pregnancy is progressing normally. Before the first appointment, however, there are a few things you can do to get the pregnancy started off healthy. Don't smoke, drink alcohol, get plenty of sleep, drink plenty of water, follow a healthy diet, keep your body moving regularly through exercise, take your prenatal vitamins. If you can. Some people can't take those because of the iron makes them sick. That was me. That was my daughter. I can't even handle iron infusions either. They just all make me sick. Then this is a thing about early pregnancy loss, the AGOG. Intrauterine pregnancies within the first trimester should understand the use of diagnostics tools to differentiate between a viable and a non-viable pregnancy. See, you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant, or you have a baby that can be born or a baby that can't be born, or no baby at all. Not just a plain regular old pregnancy. Offer the full range of therapeutic options to the patient, including expectant medical and surgical management. Then it defines that early pregnancy loss is common, occurring in 10% of all clinically recognized pregnancies. See? Clinical pregnancies. Look at that, used again. But Owens didn't have a clinical pregnancy. She had a regular pregnancy. Approximately 80% of all cases of pregnancy loss occur within the first trimester, which is true and is sad. Approximately 50% of all cases of early pregnancy loss are due to fetal chromosomal abnormalities. Common risk factors loss are advantaged maternal age prior to early pregnancy loss. Frequency of clinically loss between 20 and 30 is 9 to 17%, increases. So this is just saying as the older you get, the chances of you miscarrying are higher because our eggs like to just disappear quickly. Clinical considerations is what it's going to go. And then it says common symptoms of early pregnancy loss: vaginal bleeding, uterine cramping are common in normal gestation, ectopic, and molar pregnancies. Before initiating treatment, it is important to distinguish early pregnancy loss from early pregnancy complications. Do you know how you go and figure out if it's early pregnancy loss or just pregnancy complications? You go to a doctor. Treatment pregnancy loss before confirmed diagnosis can have detrimental consequences, including eruption of a normal pregnancy, pregnancy complications, or birth defects. If you don't go to the doctor and find out what's up with your body, it could mean you're harming the fetus because you're just having complications and not miscarrying. Therefore, a thorough evaluation is needed to make a definitive diagnosis. In a combination with thorough medical history and physical examination, ultrasound and a serum HCG testing can be helpful in making a highly certain diagnosis. David, did you mean to put this in here? Because this doesn't bode well for your client in what she did and what she didn't do. She didn't do all this, but a normal person would and should. Ultrasound, ultrasound, ultrasound. That is what keeps being mentioned, but yet she didn't have one. And then it talks about the pregnancy failures and the sizes and things like that. But something you also need to know, like with mine, is when you end up losing a baby, whether you have to give birth to them stillborn or if they're still alive but they're going to die within an hour, or you miscarry early. Something that is good to know, if they can figure it out, and some of these things cannot be figured out until after you suffer a miscarriage or a pregnancy loss, is them figuring out what may have caused it. Because if they can figure out what may have caused these losses of the baby, then you can prevent them, hopefully, in future pregnancies. I know that can't be figured out with all of them. There's a lot of reasons that it happens, unknown reasons, but if you can figure out why it happened, isn't that more reason to go and see a doctor? Please encourage people that you know are pregnant. Please encourage them to go to a doctor. Go see somebody. Don't just be winging it. It's not good for anybody. Criteria that are considered suggestive but not diagnostic of early pregnancy loss: slow fetal heart rate or no fetal heart rate. You know what we've not seen or heard about in this case either is a fetal heart rate. You know that when they do an ultrasound, they check the fetal heart rate. So that should be a report as well as a sonogram image and how the blood flow was. It's all done on an ultrasound. Where is that information? Let's see it. Let's see where these babies had heartbeats. And where is the ultrasound image from when they told you it was a boy and a girl? Because it didn't happen at Planned Parenthood. Where is that? It's just, there's too many unanswered questions. And then it goes on to, talk about managing what happens with a miscarriage, things that can be done. Medical management, Let's see. Expulsion, increase the rate of completion without surgical intervention. Patients, so it's just talking about how you manage it depending on what kind of symptoms you're having. Protocol for medical management of early pregnancy loss: misoprostol vaginally with one repeat dose as needed, no earlier than 3 hours after the first dose, and typically within 7 days if there is no response to the first dose. A dose of mifepristone 24 hours after the misoprostol administration should be considered when the mifepristone is available. Prescriptions for pain medicine should be provided to the patient. Women who are Rh negative and unsensitized should receive an Rhd negative immunoglobulin within 72 hours. Follow up to document the complete passage of the tissue to be accompanied by an ultrasound examination. You need one afterwards, typically within 7 to 14 days. Serial serum measurements of HCG may be used instead of settings where an ultrasound is unavailable. Patients' reported symptoms also should be considered when determining whether complete expulsion has occurred. If medical management fails, the patient may opt for expectant management for a time determined by the woman or her obstetrician gynecologist or gynecological provider or suction person if you have to get a DNC. These are all reasons you go to a doctor if you are having a miscarriage. If you think you've had a miscarriage or you know you've had a miscarriage, go to a doctor to make sure that everything is still okay. Because if you don't, you could die. And then it goes into talking about the medicines and what they can do. It talks about how much bleeding should be happening. An easy reference for a patient to use is the soaking of 2 maxi pads per hour for 2 consecutive hours. Advised to call her OBGYN. Follow-up, and it talks about what they should be doing as a follow-up. None of this stuff is stuff that Owens did. She did absolutely nothing. Then it goes to talk about the surgical management if they're not doing it with just a pill. This is the talks of the DNC where they have to go in there and suction out things. This, I've heard you can be in a lot of pain after this because sometimes they have to go in there and scrape things too. You can become infected after this stuff. So, I mean, this is just not something you play around with. But it's all fun and games to Owens. And my heart goes out to people that have had to deal with this in real life. I am so sorry for you. Maybe go and get some counseling. Look at hormonal contraceptives. That talks about the immunoglobulin of the Rh negative, which if you're Rh negative, when you go through regular labor, you have to be on stuff too. I keep clicking that thing to pop up. And then it just goes into other things and the conclusion and recommendations of if you're going through this. This is just more of that. Then it goes through and talks about where all this information is gathered. And there's more resources about what they did over here. Now we're going to get into Clayton's medical experts, I believe. We are 2 obstetrician gynecologists who have offered our service for expert review in the matter of Owens v. Echard. We have reviewed the medical records provided by Mr. Woodnick, including those from Banner Health Urgent Care, Barrow Neurological Institute, Scottsdale Perinatal Associates, an ultrasound image labeled as SMILE, which was later disclosed to be images purportedly obtained from Planned Parenthood at Mission Viejo, California, per Owens' deposition testimony, mom doc, and the transcript of Owens' deposition from March 1st, 2024. Based on this information, we cannot confirm by any objective data that Owens had an ongoing viable intrauterine pregnancy at the time of initiating the legal matter in August 2023 or since. There is no confirmation from any medical provider that a pregnancy was identified by ultrasound at any point in time. The patient showed no effort in maintaining a healthy pregnancy given her avoidance of the standard in-person medical care despite her reported episodes of vaginal bleeding and alleged pregnancy loss. It is our expert opinion that the evidence as presented is not conclusive that the petitioner was pregnant with a viable intrauterine pregnancy at any time in the last year. And then it's going to talk about positive pregnancy tests. There is evidence on June 1st, 2023, that HCG was present in the petitioner's urine. The only objective evidence of the pregnancy after the initial urine pregnancy test at Banner Urgent Care was a serum quantitative HCG value drawn on October 16, 2023 of 102, which does not correlate with the gestational age that she would have been on that date. Had she had a normal ongoing pregnancy, it would have been much higher. And then it says footnote 1, a 2014 study determined that the median HCG level at 22 weeks of gestation to be 16,174, with a minimum of 2,599 and a maximum of 86,541. She is not in the thousands at all. It should be noted that this data is for singleton pregnancy. Twin gestations would expect even higher values. So she's pregnant with twins supposedly, and she's not even in the thousands, which you need for a single pregnancy. And for twin pregnancies, you would need even more than that. So, yeah, no. Single HCG values of minimal clinical significance and more standardly used within the context of an ultrasound evaluations and HCG trends. The presence of HCG can be due to a pregnancy, but pregnancy is not the sole cause of positive urine HCGs. Furthermore, a single urine HCG is not diagnostic of a intrauterine pregnancy. HCG can be present in serum, urine, or both under non-pregnancy related conditions. Exogenous injections, certain antibodies, certain cancers, familial HCG syndrome, which I wonder if she has, and pituitary secretion of sulfated HCG. There are clinical investigations that can be performed to distinguish one of those, which she should have. Owen should definitely find out why she always has positive HCG levels. All right. These conditions from another. Additionally, there is a phenomenon of a quiescent pregnancy in which failed pregnancy leaves residual tissue that persistently for up to about a year produces HCG and causes false positive pregnancy test. Ongoing clinical care would soon confirm a viable pregnancy is not present in such case. In general, the quantity of HCG in these conditions remain at a low level, and an ultrasound evaluation does not reveal the development of fetus over time. Additionally, this low level of HCG would not cause significant weight gain, bloating, nausea, or other systemic symptoms. Ultrasound image. The single ultrasound image that Owens has stated in her deposition occurred on July 7, 2023, has not been authenticated from any healthcare provider. No medical records are known to exist regarding this pregnancy from Smile or Planned Parenthood in California, despite multiple attempts to obtain these records. The image in question reports a gestational age of 6 weeks and 4 days, which is not consistent with the started date of conception. If this image is in fact an image of Owens' alleged pregnancy, that would correlate to an estimated date of conception of June 5th, 2023. But she doesn't know how to do that because she's not pregnant. Planned Parenthood visit. Owens stated there are reasons that we to this date have not been able to corroborate this existence of the first trimester pregnancy ultrasound completed at Planned Parenthood in California is because she completed this visit anonymously. As a former medical director of Planned Parenthood, Dr. Deans can confirm there is no scenario where we would treat a patient without identifying the patient. Like all outpatient medical facilities, Planned Parenthood requires name, date of birth, a piece of identification that confirms both government ID, school ID, passport, birth certificate, etc., regardless of the reason for the visit or method of payment. Unless Owens gave false information, at the time of her appointment, Planned Parenthood in California would have records of this ultrasound if it was performed at their facility. We have not been able to review those records. The petitioner subsequently sent screenshots of a scheduled appointment and visit summary on July 2nd, 2023 at Planned Parenthood in Westminster, California. However, on review of these documents, there are no vital signs documented, no orders of medications, dispensing documentation, and no patient instructions. Given these findings, we cannot conclude from these documents alone that petitioner was ever seen or evaluated at this location on this date. Pregnancy dating and timeline. In a message to her neurologist at Barrow Neurological Institute on June 28, 2023, the petitioner indicated that her Planned Parenthood visit, presumably including the aforementioned ultrasound, occurred when she was visiting California the weekend prior to the message. Okay. Presumably the weekend of June 24, 2023. This would correlate to a 7-week 0-day by conception date of 5/20/23. At 7 weeks gestation, a licensed ultrasound provider would be able to identify twins on ultrasound. In a later message to Scottsdale Perinatal Associates on July 3, 2023, she inquired how soon one could determine a twin gestation from a positive urine pregnancy test at Banner Healthcare. In June 2023, until her visit to MomDoc on November 14, 2023, all healthcare encounters Owens had were through telehealth. In the Barrow Neurological Institute records of her telehealth appointments, it was noted that they were conducted with Owens seated. Per Owens' deposition, she passed 2 sacs sometime in September or October. In that time frame, the pregnancy would have been somewhere between 16 and 22 weeks of pregnancy. At that size with twins, a loss would have produced significant bleeding and pain such that it is implausible that she would have not received medical care beyond a telehealth visit. Additionally, the sacs would have contained formed and recognizable fetuses at that point in the pregnancy. Owens testified that she showed what she passed to the provider on the telehealth visit. Gestational sacs with 16-week fetuses would have been unmistakable to a provider, and they would have unquestionably advised that she seek urgent in-person medical care. Images and telehealth visit from July 23, 2023. We have reviewed images submitted by petitioner that are allegedly showing the tissue from the event noted in Owens' deposition of passing 2 sacs. Owens clarified at the time of submitting these pictures that this event actually took place on July 23, 2023, rather than in September or October. So she lied. The pictures show toilet paper stained with blood and containing tissue, reportedly from petitioner's V. From visual inspection, we cannot confirm the source of this tissue, nor can we confirm that this is pregnancy tissue. The only way any physician could confirm that this was in fact pregnancy tissue would be to send a specimen to a pathologist. As the tissue in question has never been brought to a pathologic evaluation, there is no way to confirm it. if it was a trophoblast, which is pregnancy tissue, or a non-pregnant endometrium. There is no obvious embryonic or fetal tissue. No obvious fetal tissue or embryonic things in this image, further complicating the picture in a pregnancy that would have been approximately 11 weeks by date of conception of May 20th, 2023. Furthermore, we have reviewed the discharge instructions of the telehealth visit addressing the incident on July 23rd, 2023. In the document, the telehealth provider instructed Owens to proceed to an emergency room for additional evaluation and care. Owens did not follow this medical advice. Instead, she contacted the abortion and miscarriage hotline, the communications which we have reviewed, and again, the hotline responded, encouraged the petitioner to seek in-person medical care, and she did not follow these recommendations. Conclusion: we cannot confirm by any objective data that Owens had an ongoing viable clinical pregnancy at any time in the last year. Clinical pregnancy is defined as a pregnancy diagnosed by ultrasound visualization or one more gestational sac or definitive clinical signs of pregnancy, in addition to an intrauterine pregnancy. It includes a clinical documented ectopic pregnancy, we have received no verifiable documentation of a clinical pregnancy as defined. Signed, Dr. Justica Lindy and Dr. Deans. No verifiable. No viable. She kept ignoring what people were telling her. She wasn't doing anything that a reasonable, normal pregnant person would do, because she was not pregnant, in my opinion. So that is it for this video. I know it was a long one, but we still have nothing. And what we have is the stuff that they submitted to medical experts, and yet we still don't have definitive proof that she was ever pregnant, or how she could even believe she was still pregnant at certain points where she lied. And today, I'm not going to do necessarily a quote of the day, but Owens is definitely someone who enjoys duper's delight. Duping or dupe is one that is easily deceived or cheated, a fool. And then somebody that is duping, which Owens does a lot of duping, to deceive or cheat easily, to make up a dupe. She is a fool. She deceives and she cheats. And she wants everybody to believe in it, while she sits in her duper's delight of a world. That is it for this. Hit the like button, subscribe, turn those notification bells on, and I will see you later.